So no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to welcome to the podium Dr. Patrick Antoine. He is the CEO and Technical Director of the CARICOM Private Sector Organization. Dr. Patrick Antoine is a renowned Caribbean intellectual and regional thinker with a wealth of experience in both the public and private spheres. Dr. Patrick Antoine is an economist by profession and holds over 30 years of experience working throughout the Caribbean, North America, and Latin America. Having consulted with major multinational corporations and having worked for several Latin American and Caribbean governments on trade and macro policy issues, he has also authored a number of technical studies and academic papers. Dr. Antoine has served as ambassador to the World Trade Organization, ambassador to CARICOM, ambassador to the OECS, ambassador with responsibility for external negotiations, and chief economic and policy advisor to the government of Grenada. He also served as lead technical advisor to the regional negotiating machinery, as well as lead negotiator on agriculture. He has served as head of multinational project trade and investment for the Inter-American Institute of Cooperation in Agriculture for 10 years, and as well as special advisor to the Director General of ICA from 2018 to 2019. He sits as a director on several regional boards and served as a visitor lecturer in the Masters in International Trade Policy program of University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. Dr. Antoine currently professionally responsibility includes, again, the CEO and technical director of the CARICOM Private Sector Organization, principal consultant for I'm stumbling all over that one, Econotech Limited, ECONOTECH, president of British American and Clico Policyholders Group of the Eastern Caribbean. Dr. Antoine is also the lead consultant of the Regional Beverage Alcohol Alliance and chairman of Trinidad and Tobago Beverage Alcohol Alliance. His most recent work includes 25 by 25, Reducing CARICOM's Agri-Food Imports, Opportunities for CPSO Participation, November 2019, the study developing a macroeconomic model for Grenada, evaluating CARICOM agricultural trade, an analytical study of patterns and tendencies 2012 to 2015, study of March 2017, the development of business facilitation mechanisms in CARICOM, study prepared for the Caribbean Action under the program entitled Intra-ACP Agriculture Policy Program, with focus on the Caribbean and specific of December 2016. The chapter and assessment of the original jurisdiction published in the book, The Caribbean Court of Justice, the first 10 years of 2016, and the Grenada Growth and Poverty Reduction Strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium, Dr. Patrick Antoine.
Let me thank Jennifer for that introduction. I myself, having heard it, I was wondering who she was speaking about. But colleagues, it is always a pleasure to be here in Barbados with all of you. And particularly when I sit in forums like this with so many friends and colleagues and persons who I know have a deep interest in the areas of development and trade and agriculture and how we optimize the opportunities in this region. I'm in fact encouraged. And as in this family that we have crafted over the last year or so since we begun this journey, I want to recognize Dr. Ambassador Andre Thomas for the work that he's been doing. And we have forged an immediate and very close relationship with Connect Caribe. And I want to just ask you to give them all a round of applause because they've all done a fabulous job. Jennifer and others in bringing us here. And so, colleagues, this morning, it is always a joy to be here with my colleagues from USAID, my colleagues from Caribe Dollar, and so many others, Rams Logistics, all of you that have sojourned and journeyed with us on this. I feel that this occasion to have the discussions with stakeholders is so important to run the next leg. And so I opted not to give you a formal speech, but to speak with you, because I think that's the tone that we want to set for this meeting. Look, the truth is that we continue to sit in the Caribbean on just an enormous opportunity for economic growth, economic development, and I'm going to say the word that we don't say very often, wealth creation. I'm not talking about poverty anymore, talking about wealth creation. Because wealth creation is the opportunity that oftentimes, in speaking so often about these things, they take on a life of their own. And it is the wealth creation I want to speak about, because the truth is that there's one single word that bound all of us when we started the journey, all of us as nations, all of us as people, when we started this journey that emerged into the original Treaty of Chaguaramas, and then the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas and the promise, and only next door, ex-Prime Minister, God rest his soul, would convene meetings very early, Owen Arthur, with a vision, and he always stressed wealth creation. And of course, you can tell already that we were great friends and colleagues, because a lot of the visions that I think he and others had are visions that are still to be achieved. And so this enormous opportunity that we see is how we link transportation. Not just maritime, but sea transportation. How we link the productive sectors. How we link what's happened with the fourth industrial revolution on the internet and information technology and digitalization. How we link all of those, and how we link the opportunities that flowed from that in terms of electronic commerce and in terms of linking dispute markets, including the just immense capacity of the micro, small and medium-sized enterprise sector in linking through this immense network in creating wealth. And so for us, this discussion today is not just about maritime transport, but it's also about how we use the issues that come from maritime transport and are impacted by maritime transport to create wealth in our community. And of course, a big part of the challenges that have emerged in the last decade or so is the challenge of getting goods paid for, particularly given the foreign exchange currencies that we have in some of the countries. And I have to tell you where we've had bright spots, really good bright spots. A lot of that has become essentially eroded by virtue of the fact that we can't pay. Oftentimes we can't get the foreign exchange necessary to pay. I want to be very clear for those listening. For those goods that we trade, because we have to pay in US dollars. And so this is no longer old talk. It's no longer theoretical. This is what's happening today. When Vincentian agricultural exporters export to Trinidad and they can't get paid except in TT dollars, and when they get the TT dollars, they can't get access to US dollars. Although they're coming from an Eastern Caribbean jurisdiction where they have to pay wages in EC, which is linked to the US dollar, and the inputs coming in are in US dollars, it becomes a problem. How much of a problem? Well, I come from a farming family. I don't often like to speak about my personal experiences. I think it's a good one. We exported to Trinidad, and our profit margins years ago would be somewhere in the region of 30 to 40%. So you would, all of your costs, you ship, you'd make a markup of about 30 to 40%. If when you get to Trinidad and Tobago, you get paid in TT dollars, and you have to pay a 30% premium to get US dollars, there goes your profit margin. We're talking practical words to practical people because we're close enough. And therefore, exporting becomes futile. But what is more, yes, I can give you all the numbers on the statistical expansion, coefficients and so on, but I want to talk to you. What is more is that when that happens, you have no incentive to expand. And so that becomes the tragedy, because you see, to get efficient maritime transport, right, we know that the problem already is a problem of scale. And if the things that we need to help create the scale, right, those things don't happen, then it becomes a vicious cycle. You can't get expansion, you can't get scale, but you need scale for maritime transport. You see? And so unless we start solving for these problems, yes, we're not going to be making any substantial progress in trying to fix the theme, how we create wealth for our people. Yes? And so similarly, when we lock out from the market because we don't have operations that provide for less than container loads in any sustained manner. So someone who is producing small amounts, they either have to wait, they miss a shipment, or they wait until they can find someone to consolidate with, which may not be timely. By then the market opportunity is gone. We frustrate expansion. And what is more is that when we try to bring youth, because we talk about youth oftentimes, into that whole economic sphere, and we train them, but the first two baptisms they have are baptisms by fire, because the first two shipments they lose, then we can't expect that we're going to get the expansion that we need so they can create wealth here in the region and not have to go elsewhere to look for it. And so the things that you are engaged in this morning, the discussions we're going to have over the next day and a half, are discussions that are so important. Yes? These are discussions, the stakeholder consultations, are about real topics that affect real people's lives. And what we are trying to do is to essentially create the middle, the missing middle, that can take our people to economic growth and to wealth creation. And so with all of that, I want to say that we now know that if we were able to connect the pieces I've spoken about, and we were not even talking when we did the work, the studies about the foreign exchange problems. We are just talking about how you connect the opportunities that exist in the markets, because we import so much from outside our region, and I will come to that. The opportunities that exist because we have resources for a lot of the same products, and I will come to that. I'm talking about these opportunities that exist. If we're able to just sort out those opportunities and link that with an efficient transport system, the estimates are that every country that participates will see a 3 percentage point growth in economic development. So that's 3%. So, right? So it's not insignificant. And so we're doing this because it matters. And so that's the work that I want to say to you that we are engaged in. And finally, the work that we've done. We've now brought it down to what products we can compete in based on price signals. So we're no longer talking about X amount of products coming in. We can tell you what's in the container. And although he's not here yet, Anthony, Ali, and Goddard's and the executive committee of the CPSO insisted that we bring this down to a level where you can touch and feel it. So when you leave, you know that there are opportunities that you can identify for growth within CARICOM. So we know, for instance, we can tell you that there are some things that we see happening that just defies logic, that we have the capacity to produce pineapples. And we do produce pineapples efficiently in Guyana and Suriname and Trinidad without any serious commercial thrust. But we import 9 times, not 9%, 9 times the volume of pineapples from outside the region as we do from inside CARICOM. And so those are sobering numbers. That's one item. So when we talk about the opportunities that we see as a private sector, all that keeps us from those opportunities are really, to a large extent, ourselves and policy. Ourselves, because I think we have to get our administrations to understand that the policy space that we need, the supports that are required for these connectivities to be made, these connections to be made between transport and electronic commerce and so on, that support is going to be critical. But that support is not sufficient. What's going to be sufficient is your action. Your action means that we have to come together and try to create the economic momentum for the initiatives that Connect Caribe is interested in actually pursuing in maritime transport. And we have other actions that now link what they're doing to how we enable the movement of less than container loads and also specialty products. Because truth be told, the reason why you can't get practical again, Dominican fish in Trinidad, but we can get salmon at 2 and 3 times the price. When the quality is good, it's because there's no break bulk or small package maritime service that can take it there. So just next door in St. Vincent, you have fish and other things going at 1/3 the cost, but we pay 6 times the cost, 300 miles away. Connectivity. And what will give us that information is the electronic commerce platform. It will allow you to list those products on the platform, and it will allow persons who are buying and importing, the people who engage in trade, to know that the opportunities are there. And so that's the other layer that we're trying to create. But I think for me, the exciting news this morning is what we are now doing with this initiative that we've started and which is gaining tremendous, I want to say momentum, is what we're now doing in linking with partners outside CARICOM, outside our region, who see the value of an efficient network such as the ones that we're creating. And I think there is a rising noise in North America about the opportunities that they see if we can put this space that we're talking about through connectivity in place. And so both inside CARICOM and outside, everyone sees the opportunity. And with that, I want to say to you that all that remains is for us to act. And so one of the things that will come from this forum is something that we've spoken about for a long time, which is a live pilot of how we can engage in trade and pay using the national currencies of the territories. And that's one of the things we've been working with Caribe Coin and Caribe Dollar. And we've gotten partners to agree that they will make their entities available to engage in this pilot. And so online, many persons are looking, because if this pilot proves successful, how I can trade from Barbados, goods here into Trinidad, get paid in TT dollars, but not have to worry that I need to do the conversion to US because we have the technological capacity and, of course, an ecosystem that allows us to trade amongst of ourselves and pay in domestic currency. This is part of the beautiful experiments that I think we have are taking place here today. And so the CPSO, the organization that I represent, that is comprised of the micro, small, medium, and conglomerates as well in the region, we are excited to be part of this journey. We can sit in the armchair and write papers as long as we want. We've done a lot of that. Mind you, more of that work still needs to be done. I want to make that clear distinction between those who say enough studies. No. We just start. But what we must do is that we have to act on them as well. It is never always a but. It is sometimes an and. The word is and. A lot of our young people listening at the university will find that There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of technical work to be done in IT and electronic commerce. We've just started, but we also need to act on that work. Yes? And many of the things that we've done good studies on. The best studies done on diversified agriculture was done in the Eastern Caribbean, funded by, I see my colleague in the back from USAID, funded by USAID back in the 1990s. But the impact of that work was felt in Hawaii. They took the studies done here, coordinated by USAID in Barbados, in the Eastern Caribbean on diversified agriculture to a detail you would never imagine. They took that work in Hawaii and they acted on it. And so, colleagues, I keep making the point that, yes, we're generators of great ideas. Yes? But all I invite you to do as you engage in these discussions today, right, is that think about how every single one of you leave here with an action plan. Indeed, it is time to act. I thank you.